places. It's hard to carry on when you feel all alone. Now I've swung back down again. It's worse than it was before. If I had seen such riches, I could live with being more. Oh, sit down, oh, sit down, oh, sit down. Sit down next to me. Sit down, 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 down. Sympathy.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Here we are, weekly Wednesday podcast with Kenny, Ken, Connor. I've literally just got back from a few days, a couple of little days away. Feeling pretty knackered. Didn't get to bed till 2 o'clock this morning. Far too much time in the bar. But there you go. That's life. And we're going to have a chat about Arsenal. We haven't seen it, any Premier League football for a couple of weeks. International football, friendlies, qualifying, not for me. I just find it a bit boring. But questions here from Arsenal Forever. Before we get into this, Sir Alex on Wenger's Invincibles. I won 13 leagues, but I was never near going through a season undefeated. The achievement it stands above everything, and it was Arsenal. I mean, that's some accolade, to be fair. Kenny, I mean, we're going to start with this one. So, Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger have been inducted into the Premier League Hall of Fame. I mean, about time, I think. Are you?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it goes without saying because like I said, both of them had loads of accolades. Sir Alex won everything. He's won the most Premier Leagues. Who knows, that record may never get surpassed by anyone. You know what I mean? Guardiola has to stay here for a good few years to actually emulate that. So he deserves it. But not only that, he built teams. Whenever you think about that great side in '94, that came to an end. A year later, then he built the sides from the Fergie's fledglings, the '96 side, and they went on to win the treble. And then after he let Jaap Stam go, and after Chelsea's domination, we won the Invincibles. He built another great side. In the mid 21st century, around Rooney, Ronaldo, Carrick, Ferdinand, Vidic. Another great side, and it started then another bit of domination. And within those periods, they were also one of the best teams in Europe. There was a couple of seasons when they were the best team in Europe. So you've got to give him every accolade going. He is the Premier League. Whatever journalists think of him, how he went on in terms of ran the show. If you talk about a boss, he is a boss. That is the boss. Bosses make difficult decisions, hurt people but for the best of the team, and but he gets success and he gets respect. Made some big decisions. Jim Leighton, Brian Robson had to get rid of. Roy Keane, can't knock it. Then you got Arsene Wenger as well. Obviously, towards the end, people like myself wanted him replaced. We went to marches to get him out, but he has been credited for putting a bit of the panache into his football, not just the way we play the game, the preparation, and the fact that you could play great football and still play total football. And he deserves a lot of credit because again, people credit Arsene for changing the game, but for Arsene, Sir Alex to say make those comments about Arsene, very, very magnanimous and very generous. And I think Sir Alex, for someone who's got all the records, to put his Invincible season above that, got to respect that. And I think there was a period where it coincided with where we were a genuine threat to Sir Alex's great teams of the late 90s and the early 21st century, where there was a time when they couldn't beat us. We were too good for them in terms of athletically and physically. So he's putting, by saying that the Invincibles win was one of the greatest achievements ever, greater than his, he's putting a mark of respect on those battles they had. So both of them, great inductees, and it's nice that managers get some sort of recognition, not just the players.
Absolutely, I totally agree, mate. It's long overdue. Long overdue. I mean, Connor, I'll ask you this one. Arsene Wenger on his Premier League Hall of Fame induction. To share this with Sir Alex is a great honour for me. It's like two boxers. You fight like mad and go the distance together. You have to respect, which is fact. I mean, you may not remember. I don't think you were born at some of the points. The battles these guys had was spectacular.
Yeah.
I mean, it was something else. I think give me your opinion on these two guys being inducted into that Hall of Fame, man.
I think in terms of when you think of English football, you think of managers in English football, the two names that pop up in your head first are Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger. Two more than deserved people to be in the Hall of Fame. Two men who have created such fantastic teams over the years when they were with their respective clubs. Honestly, two people who just automatically should always be in this Hall of Fame. They're two people who have made a massive mark and a massive stand on this competition. And there's no better people, in my opinion, that should be in there. I saw a thing the other day about saying that the Pep Klopp era was better than the Wenger and Ferguson era. And I know I wasn't here for the majority of that, but for some of it I was. And I can happily say that Wenger and Ferguson was better than Pep and Klopp, in my opinion. Two people who are more than deserve to be in that Hall of Fame, in my opinion. And like I said, the teams that these guys have built in previous years are fantastic, as we know. And I think it's an absolute great thing for them. And they very, in my opinion, there's no other better managers that should be in there, especially from the Premier League eras. So
I think you have to. I mean, I think we all have to agree. The latter stage of Arsene Wenger's time at Arsenal, a lot of people were like, "We're rolling him out. It's time to go. He's been here too long." I'm one of them, but none of us can deny the fact of what he brought to Arsenal Football Club. He brought major success, and this Arsenal Forever question: if Arteta wins the league, will he get a statue outside the Emirates Stadium? My answer to that is no. He doesn't deserve it. He hasn't done enough.
Exactly.
Do you reckon that is wrong because Arsene Wenger hasn't got a statue, can he?
Well, first and foremost, Arsene Wenger. They asked Arsene Wenger a few years ago if he was commissioning a statue, and we heard that he agreed to it, and then what's that? Then all of a sudden, recently, just before Christmas, we heard that that he wasn't all for it, and then he had to have his mind changed because I think what happened with the club hurt him. I think he was blindsided by the fact that there was the board actually agreed with the fans, because before there was probably more protests the year before he was asked to be replaced, and I think they were more like kind of vocal, vociferous. But I think what happens is sometimes towards the end, when people become tired, that they get tired of voicing their discontent, they just stop coming. I think that was the cause of it, and it hurt him badly because he always thought that, despite what people like we were saying and what people like Piers Morgan were saying, he always thought he had the board's back, and that didn't materialise. So he refused to come to Grand. But him getting a statue, that's only natural. You can't win what he's won and not have some sort of recognition. In terms of Mikel has to emulate what George and Arsene have done and Herbert Chapman have done, because let's not forget it, Bertie Mee won a double. He's not mentioned among winning the title. What about George Allinson, Tom Whittaker as well? Are they going to get statues? Statues have to be earned. And the three most iconic managers we ever had, one's got a statue, deservedly so, because he built this club. The second one is getting a statue because he changed the way he played. But what about the third man? The man who's the last man to win in Europe? it's about time that they just got past this rubbish about, regarding the bungs and the fact that he went to Tottenham. You know what I mean? It doesn't. It's irrelevant. It becomes more and more petty. But the good thing is that the club are inviting George to the club to the Emirates Stadium. He has been part of these things, these kind of occasions where we had a new mural. George was there, and the more and more George gets involved, and the more and more we can educate people, like Josh and Vinay about George's contribution. And if someone like Vinay could probably admit that he was probably attracted to watch the Arsenal because of what George Graham did, then maybe we can get some sort of justice for George and get him some sort of recognition. Because every time you talk about inductees to the Premier League and inductees at Arsenal and thing, unless George Graham gets the same sort of recognition, then that's always going to be like a boil on Arsenal, on the club. It's going to be a boil, and it's not going to be lasted until there's some sort of recognition and justice. Because let's face it, George Graham loved the club. Yes, he played for Chelsea. Yes, he played for Aston Villa. Yes, he managed Tottenham, and yes, he left after to go to Man United, where they offered him a lot of money in '73. But the fact is that everyone who does great things for the club should be recognised. But in terms of Arteta, a young manager like him, he's got time on his side. He hasn't changed my mind. I don't think he's changed yours either, Jez. But the more honours he wins, the more, he is part of that argument. If he wins the European Cup next year, as well as, and if he wins the championship, then I think, people will think, hang on here, this is a guy who's won the first Champions League. It becomes more of a discussion that you can't walk away from.
I totally agree with that. Absolutely, totally agree with that. And I was just going to say, Oregon Gooner, thank you, mate, for gifting me a membership of my own channel. Very kind of you. And you've also gifted one to Strasbourg Steve, which is decent of you, mate. Thank you for that. Unfortunately, they don't show up here. I can only see them on my other computer. StreamYard don't show gifts. They only show super chats. I don't know why. I've asked other people, Lee, namely one. It just doesn't happen. I don't know. It's a bit queer, really. Steve Strasbourg, you've got a membership for a month, I believe. And Arthur Verrett, Jez, Kenny, Ken, big up. We are missing one guest at this point in time, so I don't know where he is. He might still be working. But Connor, I'll ask you this question, mate. We don't want to talk about this too long, but Conte's gone from Spurs. Spurs are crap. They're in a mess. I want to ask you this question, mate. Nagelsmann was sacked by Bayern Munich shortly before Conte was. Do you think that was a ploy by Tottenham to sack Conte and are now going to try and get Nagelsmann in?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was definitely, when I saw it in one of my mates' group chats, he sent it about him losing his job, and I'm thinking, Nagelsmann, I was like, what's he done wrong, really, in my opinion? I know they're not doing well in the Bundesliga this season. Normally, they're absolutely flying through, and they don't normally have people catching them. But in my opinion, I don't see what Nagelsmann's done wrong. They're still in a quarter-final of a Champions League. They could go ahead and win it. I definitely think injuries played a massive part in Bayern Munich's season this year, because they've had likes of Sadio Mane out for quite a long time, who has been a good player for them since he signed for Liverpool. So that was a bit of a weird one. So I can definitely agree with the fact that it does seem a bit odd that Conte and Nagelsmann did get sacked at the same time. Maybe it's just a coincidence. I don't know. Can I see Nagelsmann going to Tottenham? Yes. I honestly thought if Conte was to get sacked, they'd honestly get Pochettino back. But in my opinion, you could get any manager at that club, and they just won't be able to do anything with it. So I could just see Nagelsmann going there, getting a bit of a paycheck, and then probably the same thing will happen again. But in a sense, I'm actually quite jealous because I do like Nagelsmann. I think he's a really talented manager. I definitely think he's a manager that can take teams places. Hopefully, if he goes to Spurs, he doesn't do that. But yeah, I did find that a bit weird, and I knew Tuchel would come in straight away because I remember they've had eyes on Tuchel for quite a while by Munich. But Very weird, very weird. I think it might have been something to do behind the scenes with Bayern Munich. I mean, the investments were good this season, especially in the summer. They brought in some fantastic signings. You know, the idea of Jan Sommer coming in from Mönchengladbach in January. I thought he's a great goalkeeper. While Neuer was out for the rest of the season, which also played a massive part. The fact they didn't have Neuer in the team for the rest of the season affected them massively. You know, so in a sense, with over at Bayern Munich, I thought it was a bit of a stupid decision, especially at this point of the season. But then again, Thomas Tuchel is a very experienced manager, has won Champions Leagues before. You know, so he knows what he's doing in that department. So I guess they've made a right call there. But if he does go to Spurs, which I do think he probably will, because he is top of the list in terms of the odds. I hope he doesn't make that much of a difference, but I think he could, because I think he's a very, very good manager. But then again, it's Spurs, so they don't normally make any progress, especially in the last 12, 13 years. So yeah, but it was I can definitely agree on the fact, Jez, that you said it's a bit of a ploy. It's a bit odd that it's literally happened bang on the exact same time. But yeah, I hope if he does go there, I hope it doesn't go too well, because I do like him as a manager.
Kenny, I mean, I know we chatted about this on the podcast with Lee the other night, didn't we? Monday night.
That's right, yeah.
Do you think it's a coincidence, or do you just think it was actually the fact that Nagelsmann was sacked and they've Conte having had his rant, as we discussed? Do you think it was a plan?
No, I think what's happened is that unfortunately, you know, maybe a few players at Spurs probably thought enough was enough. And then the media done a really good hatchet job in terms of like saying, oh, he's got to get sacked. He can't get away with that. And sometimes the media do play a part, because, you know, sometimes and Spurs fans were dissatisfied with the way things were going in terms of the style of play. You know, they've always liked football played on the floor. They liked it played with a bit of panache, the push and run style. And, you know, Conte didn't represent that. I don't think Conte, you know, was truly committed to the job in the first place, but everything he said about the club was true. In terms of like the timing, it's just a coincidence, isn't it? It was a coincidence, because in terms of Nagelsmann, I was shocked that they made a decision. But when I look back on it, I shouldn't be shocked, because there were problems with Nagelsmann. Remember, he fell out with Lewandowski before he left. In terms of like style of play, there were 7 players, including including Mane, you know, people like Mane, Neuer, who were not dissatisfied. Gnabry as well, wanting him gone. You know, he struggled with big stars at Bayern. There was also the sacking of the goalkeeping coach who was there for a long, long time. That, you know, Neuer used at Schalke. He's a trusted friend as well. That came against Nagelsmann as well. And also there was problems with leaks of information. Nagelsmann was thought that the goalkeeping coach was leaking information, and then it still was rearing its ugly head even weeks before he was asked to leave, because all I was reading about was secrets being logged. And then his girlfriend writes for Bild in a German newspaper. She covered Bayern Munich games but she was removed because of their relationship, which started about a year after his marriage ended. So again, there's an element of distrust because of his relationship with his girlfriend. But all in all, the bottom line is that Bayern Munich have to win every game, and they have to win. They have to be on top all throughout the season. If there's any like danger of anyone but Bayern winning the league, then they will get sacked. But it's a combination as well. You know, sometimes when you do have big jobs, it's all well and good getting a young manager and you say you want something fresh and vibrant, but at the end of the day, big stars want managers who they respect. And, you know, if a younger manager can't deal with the big stars, and their contract on long contracts, and they're bigger than the club and bigger than him, it's not going to work. But in terms of Tottenham, you know, if he goes to Tottenham, it's highly likely he's going to have no Kane. He'll have Song, because Song will probably be the leader of the pack. But, you know, the thing that will help him is that they'll probably go to copy Arsenal and go down, let's trust the process theory. So that might help him in good stead. But, you know, one thing about football fans, they need to be seeing progress pretty quickly. You know, all this rubbish about, let's feel the pain. And I always believed in Arteta. And, you know, even when he was struggling, I was one believing, you know, good for you, mate. Good for you. Good for you. But I doubt. But I bet with bottom dollar that you're liars. Because when we were going through tough patches, there was a lot of complaints even for people who were backing him, but they won't admit it now because things are going well.
Exactly.
But that's the risk. The risk you do take with younger managers, and Spurs are probably going to look at the whole situation and think probably both of them are going to suit parties. Spurs, how many trophies have Spurs won since 1984? They've probably won 4 trophies in 38 years.
Yeah.
So FA Cup 91, 90 League Cup, League Cup in 99, and in 2008 the League Cup again. So since 1984, I stand correct. They won 3 trophies.
Yeah.
91, 99. So if that's the case, I don't understand our
and they haven't won a league trophy since 1961.
And if you look at Spurs as well, their most sustained success only came under one manager, and that's Bill Nicholson. Remember, they won. They had a great time in the 60s, from 61 up until about 67, and then in the 70s they won, League Cups and UEFA Cup as well. So after Bill Nicholson left in 74, Spurs have never stopped winning big trophies. So it's the history of Spurs. It's not slagging them off. It's that something has to change there. You know what I mean? Because I've had a bit of success under Burtonshaw and maybe a bit of Bennett, and I just think, that's the whole situation. The whole mentality's got to change. They've got to get out of this top 4 rubbish that we were like drowning in. If they don't get out of this top 4 nonsense mantra, they're not going to be successful.
I agree with what you're saying. The thing is, Kenny, like you've got the same view as me. I don't want them to be successful, personally. But we'll move on. Connor, Saka's contract, apparently it's reported it's going to be done 200 grand plus a week, £120,000. Sorry, £120 million release clause. Now, this is interesting for Arsenal Football Club because I've never, ever seen Arsenal. I might be wrong. Kenny, you'll correct me. I've never seen Arsenal do release clauses. I don't remember any of this. So is this the new style and change in management at Arsenal Football Club? If it is, then I'm liking what I'm seeing, because it's about time we started to do this sort of stuff. Now, if it is correct, I've seen a report that Romano has actually said he's reported this out. The deal is done. It's going to be signed. £120 million release clause. And the fact, Mr. Arsenal, Tony Adams, has reported and said he thinks that Bukayo Saka is the best player in the world right now. What's your view?
Well, first things first, so that release clause, it definitely shows that we are stepping it up in terms of our transfer business, because you see with teams, especially international teams, so across Spain or Germany, they always will have release, especially in Spain, they will always have release clauses on their players. And it's a thing we must have, because especially if more and more clubs will become interested in Saka, especially after this season, if we have a release clause of 120 mil and some club like maybe Real Madrid comes along and says, we want the player, if we do think about selling him, we'll probably be like, no, you've got to pay the release clause, that's it. And paying £120 million release clause in this day and age of football is massive for teams like Arsenal, because we can then go and use that money and get the same level of play, maybe even better. Not at the moment, because I don't think really many wingers are much better than Saka at the moment. Probably a bit biased because I'm an Arsenal fan. But it's useful, because normally we'd probably sell the player for maybe 50 million. So having that release clause with us makes it easier to go. If clubs want to come and approach us and want the player, God hope they don't, and I hope we don't want to sell him, because I love Saka. But that kind of release clause can then widen our options if we want to go to the market afterwards and then get a really good player afterwards. So it's a good thing, and I hope it is something to come, because you've got the Saliba contract coming up as well, which hopefully gets signed. I hope we sort of do the same thing there, because we don't want to be selling Saliba for a measly 40 million, 50 million if it does ever come to the day. We want to be putting these release clauses on these most important players. And also, it keeps them more locked with the club, because not many teams will want to approach, unless the rich teams will want to approach these clubs like us and say, oh, we can't really pay that 120 million release clause. We have to move on to someone else. So it's a way of also keeping secure of Saka, that we make sure he doesn't leave, because he is an important asset to this team. We've seen it this season. He's probably one of our most important players to this side. And I think it goes very underrated sometimes. He's been fantastic all season. Hasn't been injured pretty much. So he's massive for us. And I can see a lot of people there are saying that the release clause is a bit low. I kind of agree. I mean, 120 mil is still a lot in today's market. I mean, you can get a very vast amount of players for that type of money. So but it's a great thing if he does end up signing it, and it is that much of a release clause, because it helps us in the future, especially if someone does want to activate that, the player wants to leave. It gives us a lot of options in today's market. We could get the very best of that kind of money if we wanted to. So yeah, I think it's a good thing, and I hope obviously he does sign, which is going to happen. And I think it's then just onto the thing of the Saliba deal. I want that to get done as well, because he's got 1.5 years left in his contract, I believe. So and on that thing with Tony, Tony Adams, I agree with him. I'm probably a bit biased, but I saw people commenting about this guy from Napoli, and maybe he's having a good season, but I don't think it's in the Serie A. I know Napoli are dominating at the moment, but you got to do it in the Premier League, in my opinion. That's the big proven point. And Saka's been the best winger proven this season. So why can't he be named the best in the world? I think he should be. So I think I agree with Tony on that one. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's a 120 million release clause. That's only a release clause. There's money on top of that. So, Kenny, what do you think, mate? I mean, 120 mil release clause. We're going to apparently pay him 200 grand a week. I mean, I think it's bargain time. I mean, the guy's absolute class. He's getting better and better and better. I mean, I wouldn't be at all surprised if he got Player of the Year again, 3 years bounce. And this young man is going to go on, in my belief, my personal belief, Connie, to great things. And he's 21. I mean, come on, man. Wow.
I think that's what it is. I think the thing with release courses, some players are happy with it and some players haven't, because at the end of the day, they don't want to be tied down too long. But I think with terms of what we've done with him, we have gone through the foreign model, and the thing is that his age is ripe, because at the end of the day, the last thing we want is that we want him on not just for long term, but can you imagine when he gets to his prime, when he knows even more about the game? We want him to have his prime years with us. So, that's why I'm really happy with the fact that we give him a long contract. The release calls probably should be a bit more, but again, he's only. Can you imagine if it was 2 years down the line and he was achieving even greater success with us? It'll probably be a bit higher, but at his age, he hasn't won the league yet. He's only got a one FA Cup medal, albeit from the bench. So yeah, I think the Reece calls is right at the moment, because you just don't know at the moment. But we just have to just pray that he gets to the, like I said, the levels that we believe he will get to, because as you said, he's getting better and better. You know what? He's a good person off the pitch, and I just hope that, he doesn't go. Well, I'm confident he's not going to go the same way as Aubameyang and Ozil, because they were this was their last big contract. You know what I mean? To the extent that they were securing their future, because Ozil was he 30, was it 29, 30 when he got his contract? Aubameyang was about 30 as well. So it was a case of when you do give players like that big contracts, it's on the back of them earning it through performances or reputation. But with players who are in their 30s, you don't really get value for money, and we certainly didn't get value for money from both of them afterwards. But with this guy, we definitely get value for money. But can you imagine how scary it's going to be if he does get to that level, and then he starts thinking, I want what Haaland's going to get. Can you imagine if Haaland's getting $500,000? He's going to want that soon. So it's one of those things where you want him to be the bet. You want Arsenal to still look at that and still think, you know what, we're going to pay whatever it takes to keep this lad, because you know what happens, right? What's good in 2023 may feel a bit differently in 2020, 2026 or 2027, because by that time he would have enhanced his reputation in Euros and a World Cup, and with Arsenal, so they want more money. But yeah, it's in terms of what Tony says. Hey, look, Tony. If Tony wants to say that, fine. But at the moment, at this level, he is a top player. He's a top player, and he's not only that, his performance. You've got to take notice of the goals and assists. You know what I mean? That's something we want from Mesut. Mesut we never really got, but from this guy, he's unplayable. If you pass the ball in front of him, just in front of him, rather than to his feet, he will kill you. He will kill you. You know what I mean? There's the only thing about that I'll criticise him more. I want him to work on that right foot, because that right foot can do a bit of work, and I want him to improve his heading. But apart from that, it's brilliant.
Fact, and that brings me on. I mean, the guy's he's 21, as somebody just put in a comment there. Imagine him at 26, 27 when he's hitting his peak. I mean, he could be unbelievably good. I mean, he's bloody good now. Let's get it right. He scares the shit out of defences. And the times we've seen this season when we've had 2 or 3 players having to get round him, which is also quite good because it gives movement for our other midfielders. And we score goals from that. So there's 2 great qualities there. Defences are scared the crap out of Saka. Anyway, I'll move on to this one. We touched on this the other night, Kenny, didn't we? Odegaard offering a 6-year contract. I don't agree with that. I don't see the point of it. I'm saying offer him 2, maybe 3. Connor, do you like these big, long contracts being offered? I don't. I don't see the point of it.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I didn't actually hear about that. I mean, we just didn't sign him long ago, didn't we? It was only 2 years, so he must have about another 3 years on his contract.
Yeah. He'll be extended by, I think, if he accepts a 6-year, he'll be extended for 4. Another 4 years.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, no, I think Odegaard's a different kettle of fish. I mean, in my opinion, yes, he's been fantastic this season. Don't get that twisted. But 6 years, I think it's just that's a bit overkill in my opinion. I think he needs to prove himself a bit more. I think, yes, he's been fantastic this season, but we want to see it be more consistent. This is his best season to count so far in an Arsenal shirt. I know he hasn't had many, but hopefully he will have more, because I do think he can become even better. But too early, in my opinion, to be giving out something like that. Good player, I think he's become more of his own in this Arsenal side, especially when he first came here. He was a bit where he is still now. He does have off days now and then. He will sort of just disappear, but that's very rare now. But before, he did used to do it a lot. But this season though, he's been quality. Don't get me wrong. I would take that away from him. He's been one of my favourite players as well this season. But that's a bit unnecessary so far. I think another season, or maybe even 2. I think if he repeats what he's done this season and makes it even better or the same next season, I think it's more to have a conversation about it then. But maybe in a sense, it's another way to keep him locked in. Maybe Arteta wants to make sure he is locked in with this club and that he won't go anywhere else. And you never know. That might end up to be another release clause where it's 120, 150, whatever you want to put on it. So it could be just another case of that. But yeah, I'd give him another season or 2 before we start going into any 6-year contracts, because a player's form can turn like that. It's facts. At the end of the day, we don't know where that player could be next season or even next week. So yeah. bit hasty on that one. I hope we're not going to get on a trend of re-signing everyone. But yeah, that's a bit of a, I don't know. I'll give him another season or two, in my opinion. For that.
Let's get it right. When we first got him on loan, he wasn't all that. He wasn't brilliant last season. This season, I'll have to say, I think he's been very, very good. But Kenny, you know, I've heard your view. Do you? I just don't think Kenny 6 years. No, it's just too long.
I think the 6 years is a lot to do with the clubs trying to grab back the power, because I think you're going to see that a lot nowadays. You got to remember these short-term contracts as all the consequence of the Bosman ruling. Let's not forget, you know, because you think about it from about 99 onwards, 99, 2000 onwards, for a good few years, you know, players were letting themselves get into the last year of their contract. Clubs weren't negotiating, and a lot of them were academy players, and players were leaving clubs on short term, on freeze. So nowadays, especially the better players, you know, clubs are going to try and tie him down. Let's not forget, Odegaard, was he 23? 20, he's a kid still, even though he's played a lot of games, been at Real Madrid for a long time. He's been at the club for about a year and a bit. He's only 23, so they are going to tie him down in long-term contract. Plus, he's the captain as well now, so they're giving him the captaincy. So, you know, I think that is just a show of commitment, but also a way now that clubs are saying, right, we don't want any Bosmans anymore. We don't players on short-term contracts, because I think what it is that by tying them into those 6 years, it means that it gives them more time, you know, to see how the player, you know, whether the player's value for money, and also it means that they won't have to negotiate their contracts for quite a while. But you know what happens in football. We don't know what's in players' contracts, but I know Tony Adams used to have something in his contract that if, as a captain, if a player got a pay rise, he got one as well. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact, Tony. Yeah, that's a fact. You know what I mean? And that is something that's been documented in David Seaman's autobiography, and Tony Adams mentioned that himself. So yeah, that is a whole situation. I know some, you know, we don't know. There's rumours that certain players have things in their contract they got to play every game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, that was fact, wasn't it? That we're talking about.
Yeah. We know we're talking about it, don't we?
Certain ex-Chelsea player, but we won't go into that one. Right, I'm going to ask about. Apparently, Partey might have an injury, minor injury. That's not good if it is, because our midfield is nowhere near as good without him. That's apparently. I mean, Arsenal apparently sent a physio out with him. So, I haven't actually seen anything reportedly concrete on this one, Kenny. Have you heard anything? Do you know anything? Know any rumours?
He's something that we're talking about. It's, you know, they say he's got a slight injury. That was going to be Saturday, and you know, so it's one of those things that the player you don't really want to get injured is him. You don't want any of our players to get injured, but he's one of them because he's so vital to the team. You know, you probably won't get played a year. Probably going to give it to the Sackers, the Odegaards, you know, and he won't get mentioned. But in terms of what I've heard the same rumours as everyone else. Doesn't mean they're true. Doesn't, but you know, with Liverpool coming, next week Sunday, Easter Sunday. If he's got a slight injury, they're going to think, well, we may soldier on without him because we think that the Leeds game is winnable. But when we go to Anfield, they're probably going to need him because Liverpool will pack the midfield. So this could be, you know, a good time to rest a player, because let's face it, you know, when Jorginho has come in for us, he hasn't been that bad. He's played quite well for us. So again, it's all about, you know, trying to manage the squad. But the thing about him is that it's the way Any other player, you think, okay, no problem. But it's because of the way we play and how vital he is to the system. It is something that will concern a lot of Arsenal fans.
Yeah, I mean, Connor, do you think this is mind games? Do you think this is rumours being put out by the club, Arteta, getting into the Ferguson era of, the old mind battling, the mind games? We've done it, apparently, didn't we? A couple of games ago with Saliba, and he played. Strange.
Yeah, that was, it's quite funny actually, because whenever I think of something like that, those mind games, I do think of Tottenham. Because remember, whenever we played Tottenham, most likely they'll come out with, I think Harry Kane's injured. And then we'll see Harry Kane in the starting 11 for the game coming up, which I always remember. But do you know what? He did go, he did go away with Ghana. He played that. I think he played the whole 90 minutes of the first game they played. The second game he wasn't played at all, but he was on the bench, I believe. But I believe the Ghanaian manager actually left him out for precaution. If I'm correct, I could be wrong. So maybe that could be just in case it was a serious one. I don't want to make it even worse, which is actually a very nice thought. He didn't just think, screw Arsenal, let's just chuck him on anyway. So I hope it's mind games, in my opinion, because I can't see us going forward in this season without Thomas Partey in the side. I 100% agree. Jorginho has done no wrong. I mean, he has had the odd, could try a bit harder in some games, especially in that Europa League game. He was not as great as he was, but you got to admit that Aston Villa game we had, he was really good, and he did obviously get the goal for us to practically win it, even though we did get the fourth one. But I think no. I hope it's mind games because Partey he's essential. He is so essential in that midfield. I mean, yet like I said, we do have Jorginho, but Jorginho wasn't Thomas Partey in my opinion. He's just so. He makes such a difference in that midfield. He's so easy on the ball. So I do hope it's just a precaution. I think it could just be a knock. Hopefully, I don't think it's that major. And I think if it was, I think Arsenal would have come out and said something, or at least Arteta in a press conference. So I don't think it should be too bad. If anything, he'll be on the bench for the weekend. I don't see him not being in the side at all. I think I could possibly see, because it is Leeds, and no disrespect to Leeds, I do think we will beat them quite comfortably. And for that game, if it is true and he's had a knock, I wouldn't be surprised if Jorginho starts over him. I don't want Fabio Vieira starting, not because I don't like the player, because I don't want to go to that attacking mindset again. We've done that in Europa League and it didn't work. So I think Jorginho, I'd happily have him in. If it does come to the fact that Partey does get benched, I wouldn't be surprised if he does get benched, because I don't. If it is true and he's got a knock, I don't think we start him, because it is Leeds and no disrespect, like I said. But I'm not too sure. But I don't think it's not as bad as people make it out to be. I don't think it's a horrific injury. Well, I hope it ain't. But I do have a feeling that it could be one where he's on the bench for the weekend, and then maybe gets a couple minutes if he needs to, and then we'll have him fully fit for the next game the week after against Liverpool. Because we need him for that game. We need him for that game. I'm sorry. I will be absolutely bricking it if he's not in that team for Liverpool, honestly.
I totally agree with that. I think we're going to get into this in a minute now. We're going to talk about the Leeds game upcoming. I think... Right, let's talk about it now. Leeds United. We've got Leeds United this weekend. Glad to see we've got Premier League Arsenal back. Kenny, I love you. I know you love your international football, but even you admitted that last England game was a bloody ball fest. Even I watched it.
It was so bad. It was so poor.
It, and I was like, ball shitless. But
Ukraine were average. I think there was more energy towards them. Obviously, what's going on in their country, and more like than there was actually on a pitch from them. They're a very, very limited side. And
the more and more I look, especially in that game, because I watched that game specifically to see how Mudryk would do.
Yeah,
I'm not convinced by this guy. I think it's just a load of bit of talk. He's all right. He was bad in that game. He was really bad. But listen, maybe it's a lot of pressure towards him. But God, am I glad we didn't spend that amount of money on him. I'm very glad.
Totally agree with Connor. I mean, And even I thought it was interesting when Zinchenko was going in for a tackle on Saka. He literally backed off. Like it's like
that says it all about the state of the match. It was like it was friends reunited. It's friends reunited. You know, I like my football to be competitive, and that was just bad. You know, I can't wait for England to play Italy at Wembley. I'm sure that'll be a better game than the rubbish I saw on thing. But you know what? International football's hit and miss because, you know, I say it once, I say it 1,000 times. You can't have your European championships and, you know, your bottles of Heineken's or your barbecues in the garden with your mates and your family watching the national side without these qualifiers for the World Cup, the European Championships. But in terms of Arsenal, in terms of Leeds game, I'll say it now, you know, Leeds, you know, like I've got a few injury problems as well. Injury scares with Gonotto, you know, the Italian international. He's one of the brightest players in the Premiership, you know, and one of the brightest players in Europe. And also Ty Adams as well. Got great leadership qualities with US, only 23, but he's their captain during the World Cup. And there'll be big misses for him. But one thing is that, you know, in terms of the goals have come back in their team, you know, I wouldn't say Bamford because he hasn't really scored, but Rodrigo has been, you know, one of full of goals this season. So that is encouraging for them to get back. And, you know, you've got a fully fit, you know, Aileen, and, you know, they're getting a bit of a team. But the thing with teams like these, as I said before, it's all about confidence. You score early against teams like that, especially when they're fighting for relegation, then the heads will go down because they're running out of time. Running out of time. There's no such thing as a free hit, even against a team that's going for the title. And that is Lee's problem, you know, and Garcia's problem. He has to come to get a point, get something, win, preferably, but get a point. And that's going to be exciting because there'll be space. There's no, he can't, you know what I mean? Time's running out. You know, anyone from Crystal Palace downwards can't afford to drop any points to the end of the season. Not a single point. And or if they're going to get a point, make sure it's against a top six side or a big top six side. If it's against your rivals, you've got to win. No margin for error in there. Anyone from Palace downwards can go down. I think we've got a couple of candidates already in terms of Bournemouth and Southampton, but the third spot is anyone's.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. I mean, Connor, we got Leeds this weekend. You'll be at the game, Kenny, won't you?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on with the trains, but I'm sure the trains will do their best. But you know, there's more than one ways. The only thing that will stop me from going to watch Arsenal was COVID. No, if there's no COVID, I'm there.
Yeah. Well, I think. Yeah. So actually, off the topic, I had a message on my phone the other day on the 27th of April. The COVID app is being deleted, so that's done. Connor, Arsenal Leeds United, mate. How are you seeing it?
I mean, listen, in my opinion, Leeds aren't the side they were when they came up a couple of seasons ago. You know, that team that were constantly pressing you all the time. You could barely get a breather. We can't deny they've been pretty poor this season. They've got talent in their team. Don't get me wrong. I think they've got talent that needs to be unlocked. I don't think managers have really done it before, but you can see. I think I do like that Nonto kid. I think he's just getting started. I don't want to hype him up too much and make him sound like he's, you know, the next whoever. But they've got some talent. But like I think I completely agree with Kenny. They'll be coming for at least a point. They want to be staying up. They're not going to just say, "Oh, let's sack this off," and you know, it's like they can't be asked. They will be coming for a fight, and they'll probably try to be playing their best football. But I think it's at the Emirates. I think we'll pressure them too much, and I think we'll walk out that game, fingers crossed, quite easily. But yeah, I completely agree with Kenny. They'll be coming fighting for a point. That's what they want. Well, of course they want 3 points, but they want as many points as possible. But I don't think they can really see it out, especially at the Emirates this season. Coming with trying to get 3 points, but they'll definitely be trying. But I can't see it. I can't see it being too tough, not as it used to be. Because I've been watching Leeds this season. It's been very underwhelming. With different managers or not, it's been a very underwhelming type of football. Meslier has got a lot of mistakes in him if he wants to. I don't think he's a solid. I think they definitely need to bring in a more experienced goalkeeper because he's a good talent, but they need someone else. He's always got a mistake in him. But I definitely think it's a game where we should be getting a clean sheet, and hopefully it's a game where we will be officially 8 points ahead. Because I think Liverpool could really take something to Man City this weekend. So yeah, that would be interesting. But yeah, I was actually meant to go to this game, but think this Leeds game, but things went all wrong, and it's near enough impossible now to actually get a ticket to an Arsenal game. I actually saw my friends quickly off topic. My friends actually sent me a thing earlier. Do you know how much resold tickets are for this Wolverhampton game at the end of the season? £28,000 a ticket for a reason. 28,000.
That's so disgraceful.
It's beyond the question, isn't it?
It's so
and that's for upper tier. That's not even for the bottom tier. That's for upper tier, like right at the back.
Yeah. Upper tier tickets always been the most expensive anyway, because there's no such thing. You don't get restricted views in upper tier at all.
Mm.
You know, there's no. Well, and everyone sits down, so that's why you're going to always get great views.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it? I've been trying to go to a game all season. My uncle has a season ticket, so it's difficult for him to let go when he wants to go to a game or not. So if I ever want to try and get a ticket, even to like the Bournemouth game before it was actually quite a good, we knew it would be quite a good game. It's about £300 a ticket, and I'm like, I can afford it, but I'm not going to pay that much money to go watch it. As much as I love the club, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? And I'm part of that red member at Arsenal, and I can never seem to get a ticket because they all sell out. So TV it is. But no, I definitely think this weekend, sorry, back onto it. This weekend, I think, yeah, we'll take it to them. They've got some good players, and I think they will come for I definitely think they'll come for a fight, but I don't think they'll beat us. I think we'll definitely get a clean sheet as well.
Talking about match tickets, my first ever ticket in 1967 with my granddad in the Upper West at Highbury was 2 shillings and sixpence.
Wow.
2 shillings and sixpence. I mean, what's that now? That's what? I don't even know how much that is in terms. I don't. 2 shillings and sixpence. And that's like, I mean, match ticket prices now, it's just stupid. I wouldn't pay it. Last season I bought a couple, but, you know, I just think it's disgusting. Kenny, I mean, you've got season ticket.
And it's the best way for me. Without my season ticket, I'll get ripped off from my tickets. So
100%.
especially, you know, so I'm just lucky. That's why I think your season tickets are sacred, are very sacred. And I think why get a couple of mates, genuine mates who ain't going to mess you around to hold on to it for you, you know, and or you know, it's clubbing with you, but you know, or the most important thing, you know, don't put the club into disrepute or yourself in disrepute, and don't, you know, get yourself removed from you know, going and watch the club, because it's a privilege. Even when we're rubbish, it's a privilege. Unless, you know what I mean, there were times when I was before Arsene that, you know, things weren't great. Even before Georgia weren't great, but it was still a privilege to go and watch Arsenal. It's still great excitement. I get why everyone wants to do it. You know, I think it's more than that. Last season, a lot of people had season ticket holidays because I think someone lost their jobs from the pandemic. Yeah. Now, you know, I think what's happened after the pre-season, we smashed Chelsea to pieces, that it became really difficult to get tickets, because I think there was a sign against Sevilla in the Emirates Cup where people thought, I'm feeling something today. And that's why since then, getting tickets is just hard work. It's really hard work.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, Darren's has said here, my first ever ticket was 16 pence.
Wow.
Pence. And Mammoth Flossie has said, my first ticket at St James's Park was £1.25. Oh, Mammoth Flossie, I've got to tell you this. I've just been away for a few days to this place in Dorset. Lovely, lovely place. We met 2 absolutely lovely Geordies, lady and her husband. Her husband has been going to St James's Park. He's a season ticket holder. He's been going since 1951. He was an absolutely lovely, lovely man. What he didn't know about Newcastle Football Club, honestly, I sat in the bar with him last night for way too long. And for a man of his age, by God, can he drink? I mean, absolutely fabulously loving people. And they're driven from Newcastle in 2 days. They stopped on the way down to Dorset to go to this place where we were. And fabulous, fabulous people. And I'll tell you what, for this bloke's age, you'd think he's a bloody spring chicken. Seriously, Kenny, Connor, he's bloody fit with me. You know what I mean? And like, by God, could he drink? Jesus Christ! I tell you what, he put me to bed. Henry Dennison, I remember going to Highbury in '77 when it was like 5 pence for kids. It may well have been, I don't know. Darren says first ticket was around £3.50.
I know in the 1980s. It was around it was 1980s. I remember paying £2.50 for a ticket. For entrance. It wasn't even tickets, entrance, because you know a lot of the times it's for the entrance. And I think what's happening is that because teams weren't it wasn't all ticket. A lot of people just pay for the turntiles.
Yeah, they did.
And if you wanted to go to a specific away game, obviously you just had the vouchers and the program. But I remember one time Spurs away when I was 16, we had to go to the ground and queue up to get our tickets for Spurs away. It was a £5 in 1988. And that was the 88-89 season, coincidentally, when we actually won the title at Liverpool. But yeah, that season, there was, and that's the thing. Nowadays, I think what's happened is that TV, in terms of like, you would have thought TV affected crowd prices, but actually it's increased them because more and more people now have made it more price to go after because there's so much demand because people from abroad have got memberships as well. They got there's associations, in the United States, all over Europe, so they're going to want tickets as well. So whenever these tickets come out, you got to feed everyone who's got a membership. Because at the end of the day, 60,000 stadium, how many members do you reckon we have? We've probably got about 20 times the members, and they all want tickets.
We're still the most expensive season ticket in the world.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing. We're not. That's the thing.
We're
People
not.
always think we're the most season ticket. People think we are. People don't realise is that if you go to Chelsea, Spurs, and a lot of teams, they just get the night in games. For that season ticket I'm paying, I get 26 games. So on balance, it's about right. But a lot of season ticket holders don't put their hands up and say, hang on it, we're actually not the most expensive. What they were doing for us is actually about right. And we took it with both hands because they were including our cup credits and giving. But now what's happening now is that because we haven't done well in the FA Cup, and obviously we went in Europe last season. They're reducing our 7 cup credits to 3, so we're paying for 22 games. So hopefully our season tickets are going to reflect that because let's not forget, I still got 3 cup credits left, and we're out of every cup. So essentially, they owe me 3 games, 3 cup credits.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
last season, because they owed me a cup credit, last season they owed because we weren't in Europe. They cut the cup credits, and they had to reduce my season ticket. So I'm expecting a generous reduction because I paid for 26 games, and I'm only going to get 23. So
it's obviously changed, Kenny. Because when I had a season ticket. Well, I've never had a season ticket at the Emirates. When we left the Emirates, Highbury, I never renewed. I didn't live up there anymore. and the cost of getting up there got prohibitive, basically. Back in my time of recollection, was that getting away tickets for cup games was done on the voucher system from the programs.
That's right. Yeah.
Has that changed now? Is that not the case
No,
anymore?
not at all. At the Emirates, it's all about points now. So to get away games, particularly the big away games, there's obviously for say if you want to go Spurs or Chelsea, you have to have at least anything from about 50 cup credits above to get first nibs.
Right.
And then if you think about, and then when it gets to the games like Aston Villa, it probably goes down to 20 or 30. And maybe if it goes to Bournemouth, it could be about 15 or something. So, and then if you think about the FA Cup final, to get a cup final ticket, you have to have at least three points on your cup credit to get a ticket. And then after that, you just go into a ballot if you've got no cup credit. So it's one of those things where a lot of fans were buying tickets to away games and weren't turning up because they wanted to make sure they had enough points to get a cup final ticket. I know for a fact, before the Champions League final in 2006, a lot of people bought tickets for Sunderland away, didn't turn up because they wanted to make sure they were in the nibs. Because you got to remember, back at the Emirates, at Highbury, if you went to FA Cup semi-finals and FA Cup finals, that you got cup credits for it. So that was your away credit because you went to the final. That was considered as an away game. So it wasn't just going to like the league games or the cup games away, which I went to a few. That counted. So what will happen is that every time you apply for an FA Cup final ticket, you're getting one. And it's the same with the Champions League. And then as soon as you move to Emirates, they changed that after 2007, 2008 season.
Yeah, I mean,
I had a few credits. I went to every final and I went to the odd away game here and there. But my credit, you know what I mean? It's hard now because
it's all changed from my time. I mean, Mammoth Frosty says, we are Mr. B, a friendly bunch. I tell you what, I will say this fact. Best away day in football is at Newcastle. Fact.
Yeah.
Great stadium. Well, no, it's not a great stadium because you're up there in the bleeding gods, like 3 million miles in the sky. But what a fantastic night out. It's an occasion. I mean, I love the place, love the people. Can't always understand what they're saying, but it is an amazing. It is, if you've never been, you've got to go. And it's still, I will say this, place in Newcastle called Jesmond. Strange name. But it's got the best curry house I've ever been to.
I've heard of that. But if you think about when their fans come over for cup finals, their fans are brilliant. I know they were brilliant with the League Cup final.
There's no trouble, no trouble. They just party.
The other thing they got in their favour. The other thing they got in their favour, and I think you probably say that about Leeds and Sunderland. When you're in a city and you've got one club in one city, that's brilliant. That encourages everyone to support their local side. I think the thing what TV's done since the Premiership has was actually, like I said, incorporated and TV got involved. A lot of people don't support their local teams now. People support teams that are doing well and winning, or people attract a lot of players. I know for a fact that a lot of Arsenal fans supported Arsenal because they love Dean Wright. So it could be Arsenal fans from South London, the East End, West London, and even people from Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool. They support because they like team. They can identify with Ian Wright. So that's great for us, but it's not great for their local clubs. Or, like it or not, people started supporting Man United because of their success. There's a lot of London Man City fans who are young but support Man City because they're winning, and the same with Chelsea. Again, good luck with them, but TV does have a lot of influence in terms of people not supporting their local clubs. But when you go to places like Merseyside, and you go to parts of the northeast, I've got a lot of respect for them. Another London fans I respect is West Ham fans, because even though they've been yo-yoing a bit, their support goes through generations, and I respect that.
Yeah, bit like Arsenal, really. I mean, it is like the classic, wasn't it, back in time? All the coaches leaving Surrey to go and watch Man United in Surrey. You know what I mean? It is what it was. But going to wrap it up, guys. Thanks for watching. Kenny, smash yourself out on your Insta.
Yeah, my Insta is that Kenny Ken 1972. Loads of sports news and everything's happening. There's been international football, there's boxing as well. The wretched Tyson Fury, I'm a big fan of, is gone underground. He's annoying a lot of people because of the fact that we're just not getting any action from him. We're getting talk but no action. So that's annoying a lot of our boxing fans. And Anthony Joshua fighting on the weekend as well. But everything. The one thing that surpasses everything is the Arsenal.
Absolutely, Conor, CMO. Shout yourself out, mate. I think you're doing some work with other YouTubers on your graphics, I believe.
Yes, I am. I'm currently doing some work for TJ Warren TV. I've already got some of the new stuff. He's already got some of it up on his channel. I'm going to be on his channel on Saturday morning for the Man City Liverpool game for a watch along. So that should be a good one. Fingers crossed. I can't believe I'm saying this. Fingers crossed Liverpool win that game. I do graphic work, and I'm just sort of here for the laugh for all these different types of shows. And I do graphic work on my Instagram is cmo.editing. So if you need anything for your YouTube, your social medias, please make sure to hit me up on there, and I will definitely be happy to work with anyone. And thank you again, Jez, for having me on, and Kenny Ken, legends as always. So thank you.
It's always a pleasure.
Thanks a lot, Conor. Pleasure, Conor.
You talk sense, and you've for a young fella. And well done the other night in the quiz, man. You did really well. That was a tough quiz.
Yeah. As soon as I heard 19, 20, 30s, I thought, oh, here we go.
I only put one in there.
Yeah.
We thought it was an accident because we thought it was 1970s onwards. But when I saw 1927, I thought, oh God, it's one of those trick questions because when you look at those.
I love my history, so I had to throw.
So next quiz we're going to remember. I know what to study. At least I know one question is going to come up that is trivia, because at the end of the day, a lot of people get told that, but they just don't think about it because they think it's never going to come up.
Yeah, well, you got to mix it up. I mean, even I wasn't born in 27. Many people think I was, but I wasn't. Anyway, guys, I'm going to do the outro, and thanks for watching. Smash the likes up, smash the subs up if you're new. It's always a good show with these two guys, I beg your pardon. And we'll speak soon. And come on, Arsenal, we've got Leeds coming up, and we got to get them points. Seriously. Yeah? Take care, everyone. Have a great evening, and thanks for watching.
To hear that you've been to some far places. It's hard to carry on when you feel all alone. Now I've swung back down again. It's worse than it was before. If I had seen such riches, I could